everyone, and welcome back to Homeschool and Chill, the YouTube channel that alleviates your stress and anxiety around homeschooling. Today, I just wanted to take a little time to answer a question from a subscriber. On a previous video, Shakara asked, how do you introduce a kindergartner to handwriting and worksheets, and exactly how heavy should the workload be? So I'm just going to jump right into that, show you some examples of some things that I do with my kindergartner and even some things that I do with my preschooler and first grader to give you an idea of some of the things that we do day to day. So here we are in my classroom, and I have a few samples of some worksheets and some workbooks that I use for my girls when they're practicing their handwriting. I usually start with something simple like this. I have a little handwriting practice book here. And what you don't have to buy something like this. I like buying, a lot of teaching supplies, but this is something that you can easily duplicate at home. But this book is neat. It came with a pen, which I don't know where it is right now. But it came with a pen, and it starts off with a lot of the basic strokes that you need to learn to practice handwriting. So like just some up and down motions here and side to side. And they start off with all of the basics that a child needs to be able to form letters later. Then I move up to something like this, maybe practicing writing some numbers. And, then it's a little lesson where they make the dots in the little 10 frame. And they practice writing the number 2 and counting 2 and finding 2 at the bottom, but still something very, very basic. And when we work on this, we might talk about, well, how many dots are there? There's 2 dots. And is 2 an even number or an odd number? And we'll say, well, everyone has a buddy, so it's an even number. My kindergartner, here is her workbook so far for this school year. And so at the beginning of the school year, her handwriting, it was mostly just, basic tracing. First we instruct on how the letter is formed, saying that the capital I is a tall man with a hat and shoes. And, it's not very much tracing that started off in the beginning. A little bit of tracing and a little bit of practicing on her own. And then as time went by, she's towards the end of her school year now. So a lot of her stuff has become actual words. And you see the handwriting still isn't completely perfect. Everything isn't, right on the lines. But you do see the progress from before where she's able to write more and, trying to work on her spacing between words and everything like that. My first grader, even her worksheet started off pretty basic. She went back. Most curricula, it goes backwards to make sure that you've acquired all the skills from the year before, and then they build. So worksheet started off pretty basic with coloring in and identifying letters. And as time went by, I should have had this already pulled out and ready for you. But as time went by, her worksheet got a little more, intense. There's more that was required of her to accomplish, and you can see her print handwriting. And even at the first grade level, there's still, a lot of attention needs to be drawn to spacing, because you can see some of her words are a little close together, and just making sure that the letters are the correct formation. There's another worksheet that she did there. So, and even she's at the point now, of course, she's writing her own sentences, even with a little bit of misspelling, but she needed some help on this part, so she wrote that, Mommy, I need your help with the long E, but a silent I instead of 2 E's. Okay, so for her handwriting this year, just because I felt like she needed the challenge, she started cursive this year. And typically, children who are 6 don't do cursive this early. But as you can see, on one side is where she traced, and then the other side is her own writing. You can probably tell the difference between the tracing and her writing. But as you can tell, that's pretty good to be in first grade. Depending on your child's motor skill development and muscle control in their hands, there may be a difference in what tools that they will use when they're trying to write, and that can make a big difference. So I want you to focus on things like that too, and not get overwhelmed if they're letters aren't looking perfectly, or the shapes that they're drawing are not perfect, because it might have something to do with what they're using to write with. Most of the time, my girls, when they first started just coloring and just building those motor skills and coloring pictures, they started off with these crayons, and they're old now because they don't really use the big crayons anymore, but they use the jumbo crayons. And I think I got these at Target. Other places may sell them, but they were kind of hard to find, the preschool jumbo crayons, like the really jumbo ones. But I found these at Target, writing with one of these markers. Now, the trick with these markers, the tips are pretty wide. I mean, it's a big marker so that they can grip it really well, but the only thing is the tip. Sometimes they don't know exactly how to hold the marker where it gives a nice smooth line. Sometimes they kind of come sideways and just catch one of the points, and so it doesn't give a smooth letter. Like, you can kind of see how it's kind of wonky right there because she's kind of having a hard time finding the correct angle for the marker. So even though these are fat in their hands, sometimes they're not always the best. So I would recommend, like, you know, the magic markers that kids use to color with, where the markers are still pretty fat itself in your child's hand, but it just goes in a nice point where it's not this kind of weird square with a slant on it that we use for the dry erase. And even these markers too, the skinnier dry erase, if you're starting to see that your child can handle holding a marker a little bit better that's skinny, these points are usually pretty good for them to write with too, where it kind of goes straight in a point and it doesn't have that little slant that makes it hard for them to get a nice smooth line on the paper. So after they've really built up their motor skills, then you would move up to something like a pencil for them to write with. And, you know, erasers are your friends for all of those little mistakes and everything. So, you know, there are even fat pencils, just like I showed you the fat crayons. There are fat pencils too. I just not have been successful finding them. So I don't know, maybe check Amazon or somewhere, but there are also the fat pencils. And I even think like the triangle shaped pencils too, where your child can start off with those to get practice with a pencil and then graduate up to the skinnier number 2 pencil. The workload that your child has whenever they're doing their worksheets and all that, it really just depends on your child and how quickly they get tired and how well they can write. If they're not really writing well, then it's going to be more exhausting to do numerous worksheets. It's going to be exhausting for you and your child. So you might want to keep it light until your child actually has the motor skills to be able to write properly for a worksheet. But as long as they can pretty much circle or fill in or color, and you keep the worksheets pretty simple, then you might be okay. A kindergartner, and she's going to practice writing the letter M, the capital M, the small m. She's going to practice counting to 100. And she's going to have a chart where she fills in the missing numbers that I have taken out of the chart. And then she has a very short time worksheet to do also. And for phonics, she's going to review the special sounds that she learned. And when I say special sounds, I'm talking blends like bluff and cluff and different things like that. And then she's going to work on words that have the long A sound and the K sound, like bake and cake and rake. And then she has a short phonics worksheet. And then there is a little phonics reader called The Cake that she's going to read today also. But usually we stay around the 2-hour mark to teach all 3 girls. And it's because I try to find as many things as possible that all 3 of them can learn together. And I try not to make everything so exhausting or laborious for them. And I keep it pretty fun and light so that we can get done quickly and we can move on to some of their other interests that they want to learn about, or playing, getting outside, cooking, different things like that. So, and those are learning opportunities too. But as far as like mathematics, phonics, things like that, you know, it only takes us about a couple of hours to teach all 3 of them. And I mean, that's not bad considering, you know, my kindergartner is autistic and then my 3-year-old is a 3-year-old. So you know how that is. So, but yeah, we get it done fairly quickly and we have the rest of our day to explore and do other things that the girls are interested in. So I hope that answers your question, Shakara. I hope that helped you. I hope that helps somebody else out there who may be beginning homeschooling or they're trying to gauge where to start with kindergarten. If you have any comments on the topic or any other advice that you can add about what you may do with your kindergartner, please make sure that you put those in the comments. And if you have a question or you have a topic that you would like for me to talk about, make sure you put that in the comments too, and I will make a video just for you. Okay, if you like this video, make sure that you like, share, or subscribe. And make sure that you love yourselves and stay healthy. Goodbye, loves.